Hey everyone, Mr. Emily here. I'm just making another video to hopefully help you with the lesson that I posted. Before this lesson we were solving two-step equations. In this lesson we're going to be solving one-step inequalities, and then we're going to be graphing them. The only difference between an equation and an inequality is we're dealing with more than just one answer, which sounds a little confusing, but I'm going to try to help you through that. Alright, so now before we get started, I am going to give you some examples here in a moment, but before we get started, there's a little tip, and I'll say this more than once throughout this little lesson here. When we're solving an inequality, you will be forced at some point to flip the inequality. And I say flip, you're just kind of turning it the opposite way. The only time you flip an inequality is if you ever have to multiply or divide both sides of the inequality by a negative. Alright, so I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So what we have is, I'm going to give you an easier example first. We're not going to need to flip this example. So let's just give you this one. So I got 2x is less than, let's say 8. Alright, so to solve this inequality, what we're going to do is, if I can get my different colors here. Alright, so we're going to do the exact same thing we did before. So we're going to draw a line down the middle, and you're going to try to balance this inequality. Okay, so right now this says 2x is less than 8. That's what this says. Alright, so we are trying to get, let's see if I can undo that. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get this x by itself. Okay, to get this x by itself, we're going to move this 2 to the other side. Right now this is multiplication. Just like before, to get rid of that 2, I have to do the inverse operation. So I have to divide both sides by 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a different color here. We're going to say divide by 2. I have to do that to the other side, divide by 2. You notice that we're not dividing by a negative here, so that's not going to affect this inequality here. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, and what we're going to be left with is x on this side is less than 4. Okay, so we just solved the inequality. That means x, the value for x has to be less than 4. Okay, so let me graph this one, and then we'll look at a different example. So it's to graph this, what we're going to do is we're going to follow these little guidelines here. So these are some helpful tips. So when we're graphing them, if I have a greater than or less than symbol, like we're doing in this example above, I want to use an open circle. Okay, so what that means is on the number line, we know that the answer revolves around this number 4. So let's just put 4 here. Here's 4. Let's say this is 6. We can count it by 2. So here's 8 on the number line. This would be 2 on the number line, and this would be 0 on the number line. Okay, so here's 4. To graph this, I want an open circle because it just says less than. So we're going to put an open circle right here. Try coloring a little bit. So I got the open circle. That means I'm not including the 4. And this says x has to be, the answer x has to be less than 4. So all the numbers less than 4 have to be a solution. That means if I were to draw an arrow, I would draw an arrow in this direction. That's not a very good arrow, but all these answers are going to be true because 0 is less than 4, 2 is less than 4. So all of these answers. So if you go to graph this on your assignment, you definitely want to click on the 4 and then drag the mouse to the left because those are the answers that work for this one. So now we're going to try a different example. I already erased all that other stuff. So we're going to do the same exact problem, except this time I'm going to make the 2 negative. So it's the same exact thing. So we got the exact same problem, but now the 2 is negative. So that means we're going to do the exact same thing we did before. We're going to draw the line. And again, this would be very helpful for you to use paper and pencil for these examples so that you can work them out yourself before writing down answers. Alright, so what we're trying to do right now is we're trying to get, again, the x by itself. This is multiplication. That means I have to do the inverse operation to get rid of this negative 2. Now to get rid of this negative 2, we're going to do something similar we did before. We're going to divide both sides by that number, which happened to be negative. Negative 2 divided by negative 2 is just positive 1. So that's good. And then we're going to put this number into 8 divided by negative 2 is going to give us a negative 4. Okay, because we divided by a negative value right here, I got negatives that I divided by. So I'm using that negative, I'm bringing it over across this line. As soon as I start doing that with multiplication or division, this inequality right here is going to change. It's no longer going to be less than, it's now going to be greater than. So this is the little trick that you need to know to solve these inequalities. So if you ever have a negative number next to this x, and you're multiplying or dividing it, and you have to use that operation, the inverse operation to get rid of it, this inequality is going to flip. So this example, it says greater than, so it's not or equal to. So if we were to, again, use these numbers, so here's 4, here's 6, here's 8, here's 2, and here's 0. I'm going to use an open circle again because it just says greater than. There's no or equal to on the symbol. And this says x, for all values of x greater than -4. So that means all the numbers greater than -4 on the number line are going to be true. So we're going to draw an arrow to the right side this time. Okay, so this is the little trick. It's a little tricky on those, but I'm going to give you another example right now. So I'm going to give you a couple more examples. This one is not going to deal with any kind of multiplication division. I'm actually just going to give you one like this. Actually, let's reverse that. Let's do 3. Say 3 is less than or equal to x plus 4. Alright, let's do this one. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line down the middle. Actually, I'm going to use a different color here. So we're going to draw a line down the middle like we normally do. Alright, you notice that x is now on this side. Well, it doesn't really matter. Whoops. It doesn't really matter which side it's going to be on. We still need to get it by itself. So that means I need to get rid of this -4. So just like before when I was solving two-step equations, I need to get rid of this 4, and it says -4, so I need to use the inverse operation. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to say +4 because that's the inverse. We're going to say +4 on this side. And now this is 3 plus 4 is going to give us 7. Oh, I don't want to use that color. Yellow. So that's going to give us 7. Whoops. It says less than or equal to. I still have this x here. And -4 plus 4 is the same thing as saying plus -4 plus 4. So these just cancel out. Those cancel out. So this is our answer. So one-step equation. It says 7 is less than or equal to x. So we're just going to say we're going to put the 7 here. So we're just going to say we know where that is. This is 7. We'll count by 2's again. This is 9. This is 11. This is going to give me 5. And this will be 3. Okay, so now back to our tips here. If you notice, we're dealing with a different inequality. This says less than or equal to. As soon as we deal with these things here, where it says less, greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to, I want to put a closed circle at 7, or at the number that we're going to be comparing it to. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to take, let's use yellow as well. We want to put a closed circle at 7. I like to make it kind of big enough so it's a little bigger than the graph itself, so you can kind of see where it is. This says x, this little alligator mouth is kind of facing the x. That means x is bigger. It means this is pointing to 7, 7 smaller, so that all the values of x have to be greater than 7. So that means you want all the numbers bigger than 7. So I want these numbers over here that are to the right of 7 because I want all the values greater than 7. That's how you graph this. When you click on the 7 and drag over to the right, and that's going to be what you want on that side. Alright, let's try another one. Alright, so let's try another problem similar to the last one. Let's do, let's just have some more negatives so we can see more problems like those. Let's use this again. So let's do -4 is greater than or equal to, let's say x plus 5. Let's do that. Okay, so we're going to do the exact same thing we did before in the last examples. You draw a line down the inequality there, so it's down the middle. We can balance the inequality a little bit better. Let's use different colors. So we got, well, let's do purple again. Green is here, here. Okay, so I want to balance it across this line. So I still want to get this x. Whoops, I keep doing that. Put that away. I still want to get this x by itself. Okay, so right now I need to get rid of this 5. Right now it says plus 5. That means I need to do the inverse operation. So let's do -5. That's going to get rid of this because 5 minus 5 is 0. And I have to do the same thing over here. So I got -5. Alright, so -4 minus 5 is the same thing as saying -4 plus -5. And they have the same sign. So we're just going to add those together. So that's going to give us 9. And it's going to be negative because, well, the number with the greater absolute value has a negative sign on it. So it's going to be negative. And you notice we're not multiplying or dividing both sides by negatives, so nothing's going to flip. It stays the same. So we have -9 is greater than or equal to x. Okay, so I kind of changed the operation here. So I got -9. Let's say again, let's pretend this is -9. We'll just count by 2. So this is going to be -7. This would be -5. There's just a number line. Zeros on the right side over here. So this would be -11 on this side. -13. Alright, so again, because of that little hint that I had written down for you, if it says greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, I want to use a closed circle. So that's what we want to do. So -9, so we're comparing it to, we're going to do yellow. We'll put a closed circle at -9 because that's the number we're comparing everything to. So we're going to put a circle there, closed, and this says if the arrow is pointing to the x, that means x is smaller. So I want all the numbers less than -9. -9 is the biggest number here, so that means I want to go to the left because these numbers are technically less than -9. So this is where I want my line to go. Wow, my lines are terrible. But you want the arrow to go to the left. Alright, let's try one more. Alright, so I'm actually going to give you two examples side by side so you can kind of see the difference between the two of them. So we're going to do this. We got, let's rid that a little bit. Alright, so let's do -6 is less than or equal to x over 3. And let's do the exact same thing over here, except the only difference is that 3 is going to be negative. Okay, so it's a little bit different. Okay, so you notice these are almost the exact same thing, except this 3 here is positive and this 3 here is negative. So let's try this one. We're going to use a different color. We're going to use the same sort of steps. So we're going to draw a line down the middle. Here to here. We're going to do the same thing here. It's almost like solving two equations at the same time. Well, inequalities, not exactly equations. Okay, so in both these problems, I need to get rid of everything on the side with the x. I want to get x by itself. Okay, on both of these sides, you're dividing by 3. So to get rid of that, you're going to have to multiply by 3 to get rid of this 3 here. So that means I have to multiply by -3 on this side. Actually, let's use a different color on that side. Say times -3. Okay, because this is a -3. To get rid of it, I have to multiply -3. This side just said 3. I have to multiply by 3. Now I have to do that on both sides. Because I multiplied by 3 on this side, I have to multiply by 3 on this side. And on the other example, this is -6. And I said times -3, so I have to do the same thing over here. So I have to have times -3. Okay, so I need to solve this part, and I need to solve this part. So let's do this one. 3 times -6. Well, I have different signs. It's an odd number of negative signs, so it's going to be a negative answer. So we're going to stick with -18. You notice that I'm multiplying by a positive, so this is not going to change. That's going to stay the same. And you still have the x on this side. Over here, you are multiplying by negative, so -3 times -6 has an even number of negative signs. So that's going to give you a positive 18. And because I multiplied by a -3, what that's going to do is it's going to flip this inequality because it's not going to work the other way around. And if you want to listen to the lesson, it kind of explains it more. I just don't have a lot of time to explain it on here. So it's going to give you an x here. So look, these are a little bit different, right? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to graph one of them right now. So let's do this one. So it says x, it says less than, well, it's -18 is less than or equal to x. So let's do -18 in the middle here. -18. It is less than or equal to, that means I want a closed circle. And it says x is bigger because this little alligator mouse pointing to the x, and the arrow is pointing to -18, meaning that's the smallest value. So I want the numbers bigger. So that means I want the numbers on this side. These are the bigger numbers on the right. So if I were to graph this equation, it would look like that. All right. So let's do the other one real quick before time runs out. Oops. Let's do the other one. So this is 18 here. So here's 18. Let's put 18 here. And again, closed circle because the or equal to. And it says 18 is the biggest number here. That means x is smaller. That means x needs to be on this side. Alright, so if you have any other questions, please feel free to email me. I have meetings on Mondays and Wednesdays, same time, same place. And good luck.